3 decades in the life of a family. They must face the pain of loss. They'll find hope in the promise of their children. And they will struggle with the chaos of revolution. In their journey of survival through a changing world, they must find a chance to love and a reason to live. An epic film from Zhang Yimou, Academy Award-nominated director of Raise the Red Lantern, and Zhu Dao, with Gong Li, acclaimed star of his previous films, and Farewell My Concubine, and Guy Yu, voted Best Actor at the 1994 Cannes Film Festival. A story of one family's survival. To live.
In the landscape of Chinese cinema, few directors have navigated the intricate relationship between art and society with as much finesse as Zhang Yimou. His 1994 film, To Live, follows the life of the Shu family from the late 1940s to the 1970s, through the Chinese Civil War, the Great Leap Forward, and the Cultural Revolution. It offers a powerful portrayal of life in mid-20th century China, skillfully blending the personal and the political in a narrative that is both intimate and far-reaching. Zhang himself has remarked on the need to move away from the abstract and conceptual towards something more grounded, something that resonates with the lives of ordinary people. By examining how To Live mirrors, diverges from, or complements these scholarly perspectives, we will explore whether Zhang has truly achieved a breakthrough in depicting modern China, or if his work is a piece of a much larger, ongoing narrative. ChatGPT was used for research purposes. In The Great Leap Forward, collectivization and industrialization in the 1950s occurred in The Great Leap Forward. The 1950s marked a period of rapid transformation for China, right after the Chinese Civil War. Under the leadership of Mao Zedong, the country embarked on an ambitious journey towards modernization through collectivism and industrialization. This era, known as the Great Leap Forward, sought to rapidly transform China's economy through massive public works, projects, and collectivization. In To Live, the impact of the Great Leap Forward is vividly depicted. The film portrays the drastic shifts in lifestyle that ordinary people endured, one of which was the formation of large communes, which aimed to improve production of goods and livelihood through industrialization and collectivization. The utilization of technology changed the day-to-day lives of the common people for the better. The construction of electrical pump stations powered communal facilities such as village kitchens and irrigation pumps. Tractors were introduced to plow the land more efficiently, and new irrigation canals helped water the farm plots, showcasing the strides made in agricultural and household improvements.
人小志气大呀，猪八戒都不如你。咱公社大食堂啊，有的是面，上盘吃。来，去你家佐两碗。 谁啊？我帮你搅和搅和。吃这么多呀？还加这么多辣子？
有庆儿，这么一大碗，吃不了给你垫啊。
刘星，你干什么你？你怎么拿面朝我头上倒？服务说家人，原来你们孩子好不好？
Another stark change was the introduction of communal dining rooms. As shown in To Live, people started eating in these communal spaces. The communal kitchens, often staffed by military personnel, became a daily hub for villagers to gather in, to eat, reflecting the collectivist ideals of that time.
姐呢？我等了半天了。
镇长，
都准备好了啊。这些留下。炼钢工地还指望你们家送水呢，人一见火就想喝水。这些拿走。来，
镇长，把这锅都砸了，做不成饭，往后吃什么呀？
你看，往共产主义跑还愁没咱吃的。咱们镇上成立了集体大食堂了，往后你肚子饿了，只要你抬抬腿往食堂门里一跨，鱼呀肉啊，撑死咱们。
The film shows villagers being required to donate their entire stock of steel-related utensils and equipment, from cooking woks to drinking cans. This is accurate, as in many villages, families were required to donate raw materials, such as pots and pans. These items were melted down to produce iron and steel, symbolizing the nation's push towards rapid industrialization. In reality, the steel produced in many places was poor, due to being produced by rural farmers with little expertise in steel production. There are, however, multiple points that were not explicitly shown in the film. Villagers were also forced to do unpaid labor, sometimes brought to other villages, and towns to do construction work or steel production. Due to an overestimation of grain production, skilled farmers were sent away to work in steelworks, leaving only unskilled farmers behind to harvest grain, leading to massive wastage. Villagers became outraged when many of them were forced to do this unpaid labor during the New Year holiday. These policies led to much discontent in the populace. Although there were initial successes, such as greater crop yields and increased steel production, the darker aspects of forced contributions and the immense pressure placed on individuals if quotas or expectations weren't met. Individuals who stated their honest opinions that did not match the enthusiasm by the higher-ups would be criticized and often removed from their positions, causing the remainder to keep quiet and simply follow instructions. The push for rapid industrialization, though depicted through earnest attempts at steel production, often involved coercive measures. Racing towards communism came at a significant cost to the ordinary people, but it did come with some benefits. The government's presence underscores the emphasis on modernization and the collective effort demanded from every citizen. In its depiction of the Great Leap Forward, the film does not depict the full extent of the problems facing the common people during this period. Namely, the town the characters live in does not appear to suffer the effects of famine that occurred in many places in China during the Great Leap Forward. These famines were caused by agricultural policies, bad weather, and the focus on industrialization, which led to grain shortages.
还不够啊？好，好，好，给你加满。这是人小志气大呀，猪八戒都不如你。咱公社大食堂啊，有的是面，上盘吃。来，给你加佐料。
小青，我帮你搅和搅和。吃这么多呀？还加这么多辣子？
九庆，这么一大碗，吃不了给你垫啊。
刘星，你干什么你？你怎么拿面朝我头上倒？胡哥说家里真人，你管管你们孩子好不好？
Despite this, foods such as noodles and chili are wasted in pranks by Yongqing twice in the movie, with one of these pranks being initiated by his mother. Their nonchalance towards wasting food in this way shows a lack of concern about food scarcity. This may be partially explained by the fact that the cities were hit less hard by the famines during this time, with many reports of villagers seeking refuge in them. However, the effects still reached them eventually. In 1960, people in Beijing stripped bark from trees to cope with the famine, and the government gave guidelines to city dwellers to reduce their food requirements. Similarly, the film depicts the communal kitchens established as having no shortage of food, allowing Yongqing to take as much food as he wants. Many communal kitchens did indeed have an abundance of food at first, but many ran out of meat and grain or closed down after 1960. Thus, the movie's depiction of the communal kitchens is accurate depending on the time and the location. As such, the film accurately depicts the lives of certain people during the Great Leap Forward, but does not cover those who suffered the worst from the famine. Led by Mao, the local party leaders had a profound impact on society during the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution. In Zhang Yimou's To Live, Chunsheng, the former friend of Zhu Fugui, rises to the position of district chief. Despite his earlier failures, his official status shields him from the severe repercussions that an ordinary citizen would face. This disparity in accountability is starkly demonstrated when he evades punishment for causing the death of Fugui's son, illustrating the power imbalance in how officials could escape consequences for their actions. The film depicts a duality in the portrayal of party officials, with some, such as Mr. Niu, the town leader in To Live, the government's officials are seen as assisting and being open to the public's problems, while the structural problems and the excessive power of the officials are the main reason for the misery of ordinary people. Similarly, in Liu Binyan's A Higher Kind of Loyalty, he recounts instances when some officials, despite being in positions of power, showed concerns for the citizens' livelihood, contradicting the facade often portrayed. He discusses the broad epidemic of system corruption, highlighting how the abuse of power was rampant among many officials. These abuses often led to manipulative policies that harmed ordinary people and spread suffering. Liu describes the zealots of the time, whose rigid adherence to party dogma often resulted in disastrous consequences for ordinary citizens, emphasizing that demands for political conformity often outweighed basic human kindness. The Cultural Revolution is vividly portrayed in Zhang Yimou's To Live, offering a nuanced perspectives on political oppression and personal adversity. Through these works, the era's impact on everyday life and systemic issues is brought to light, providing a comprehensive understanding of the tumultuous period. In To Live, Zhang Yimou encapsulates the era's impact on ordinary people through the life of Xu Fugui and his family. The film illustrates how political upheaval disrupts their lives, from the confiscation of their property to their relentless struggle for survival. For instance, the film portrays the family's forced relocation and the pervasive sense of instability and fear that they experience amidst the political chaos. This depiction emphasizes the personal and emotional toll of the Cultural Revolution on individual families, as Xu Fugui strives to maintain his family's dignity and well-being despite the turbulent political environment. Liu Binyan's A Higher Kind of Loyalty provides a critical and personal viewpoint that enhances our comprehension of the systemic problems of the Cultural Revolution. Liu shares his own terrifying encounters of being forced to give false confessions, which symbolize the coercive strategies of the time period. These accusations, frequently random, aimed at intellectuals and critics, were meant to embarrass and dehumanize individuals in order to crush their willpower and act as a deterrent for others. He was targeted for his critical writings and efforts to uncover corruption in the Communist Party, leading to his persecution during a period of harshly repressed dissent. There were also rampant, indiscriminate persecution of individuals during this period, which involved massive numbers of innocent people. These people were usually suspicious or in positions of power, which would typically garner much public anger or envy from the common people. This would often get them accused of being counter-revolutionaries and arrested. In those times of confusion, it was difficult to determine whether those arrests were justified or not.
爹，我昨天见春生了。
哦，见春生了
啊。春生被揪出来了，他是走资派，昨天开了他的批判大会了。
到底怎么了？
我老婆昨天自杀了。
自杀了？怎么回事？
不知道。
人呢？
不知道。我就接了个通知。
In the case of Mr. Niu, who was a very well-known town chief who had been around for a decade, had also similarly been accused of being a capitalist and sent to be trialed. When asked by Fugui and his family about how long he will be locked up for, he smiles forlornly as he knows that his fate will be uncertain after the arrest. To Live ultimately offers a varied perspective on the Cultural Revolution. The movie showcases the impact of political turmoil on individuals, as demonstrated through Xu Fugui's efforts to protect his family's honor and well-being. Liu Binyan's narrative provides a different perspective by carefully analyzing the corruption and moral decay within the political system. His story shows how these systematic problems impacted individuals and governance, highlighting the significant effect on personal lives and societal systems. In Sin Ren's China Witness, we understand the underlying reasons behind the persecutions on a societal level. Zhang Yimou's To Live offers a poignant depiction of how the Cultural Revolution aimed to eradicate counter-revolutionary elements, particularly cultural icons, as part of its broader ideological crusade. This period was marked by the systematic dismantling of traditional cultural symbols and practices, which were deemed incompatible with Maoist ideology. As Jonathan Unger notes, the Red Guards, fueled by Mao Zedong's directives, embarked on a campaign to destroy the four Ols, old customs, culture, habits, and ideas, believing that these elements represented the remnants of a feudal and bourgeoisie past that needed to be purged for the new socialist order to thrive. Unger highlights that during the Cultural Revolution, socio-economic groups that were disgruntled with their pre-Cultural Revolution situations came into conflict with other groups that wished to preserve the status quo, further illustrating the societal tensions underlying these campaigns. In To Live, this vividly portrayed through scenes where characters are forced to abandon or destroy family heirlooms, such as ancestral scrolls and traditional puppets, symbolizing the broader cultural cleansing that swept across China during this era. The film's narrative mirrors the historical reality where cultural icons and intellectuals were targeted as counter-revolutionary and subjected to public humiliation, imprisonment, or worse. Central to the Cultural Revolution was the cult of personality surrounding Mao Zedong, which played a crucial role in mobilizing the masses and legitimizing the violent campaigns. Mao was elevated to a near godlike status, his image and teachings dominating public life, from propaganda posters to mandatory recitations of his Little Red Book. Unger emphasizes how this cult of personality was not just a tool of political control, but also a means of instilling an almost religious devotion among the populace, which justified the extreme measures taken during the Cultural Revolution. In To Live, the omnipresence of Mao's influence is depicted through the characters' interactions and the pervasive atmosphere of fear and reverence that surrounds Maoist slogans and imagery. The film illustrates how ordinary citizens like Fugui and his family were swept up in the fervor of the revolution, where loyalty to Mao became synonymous with survival. The narrative highlights the extent to which the cult of personality infiltrated every aspect of life, often forcing individuals to betray their cultural heritage and their personal relationships in the name of ideological purity. Furthermore, Unger discusses how the Cultural Revolution's assault on counter-revolutionary elements extended beyond the physical destruction of cultural artifacts to include the systematic re-education of the populace, where traditional beliefs and practices were replaced with Maoist doctrine. He notes that not only did the state lead the movement through policy pronouncements, but also local state actors took the interpretations into their own hands. One of the consequences was the large-scale violence examined here. This theme is echoed in To Live, where the characters are shown adapting to the new social order, often at great personal cost. The film's subtle critique of the Cultural Revolution is evident in its portrayal of how deeply ingrained cultural practices were forcibly uprooted, leaving a void in the lives of those who were once defined by these traditions. The destruction of cultural icons and the relentless pursuit of ideological conformity, as depicted in both the film and Unger's analysis, reveal the extent to which the Cultural Revolution sought to reshape not just the political landscape of China, but the very identity of its people. The film also includes a depiction of the Red Guards, a major aspect of the Cultural Revolution, though it differs greatly from the common public perception. The Red Guards were grassroots organizations that arose during the Cultural Revolution and sought to carry out its ideals by destroying the old culture and ideas. In many places, they became feared by locals due to their arbitrary and violent targeting of unpopular, suspected, or denounced persons or critics, who would be arrested, tortured, or killed. In the film, the most prominent Red Guard is Wang Ersi, the leader of the factory's Red Guards and the arranged husband of Feng Xia. The film shows awareness of their fearsome reputation by having people be concerned and warning Fukui's family when they see Red Guards around his house. However, the film deliberately subverts this by having the Red Guards renovating the house instead. In fact, throughout the movie, the Red Guards depicted are polite and not shown doing any violent activities. They are, however, shown to be committed to the party and its cause, such as when they paint a mural of Chairman Mao on Fugui's home, and later give thanks to it when Wang Ersi gets married, which matches with the role of the Red Guards played as the zealous proponents of the Cultural Revolution. Despite this, Wang Ersi recruits a persecuted doctor to help his wife give birth safely. While this could be interpreted as showing the hypocrisy of those in positions of power, Wang Erzi is also shown treating the doctor with respect and patience, further giving a more nuanced portrayal to the Red Guards. Another aspect of the Red Guards that was not depicted is the factional conflict that often broke out between different groups of Red Guards. In the factories, they tended to be divided among loyalists who had been favored by the party before the Cultural Revolution, and rebels who were not. There are records of factional strife between Red Guards taking place in the factories and rebel Red Guards targeting factory officials. Due to the factory being in steel production, a heavy industry that was more favored by the party, and the heavy party presence observed within the town, it is likely that these Red Guards would have been part of the Loyalist faction that sought to preserve the pre-Cultural Revolution status quo. Despite this, there is no indication of any conflict with other Red Guard groups, which serves to further the film's subversion of expectations, but results in an incomplete portrayal of the Red Guards. The changing attitude towards communism in To Live. The evolving attitudes towards communism is captured in Zhang Yimou's To Live through what Mr. Niu and Fugui, important characters, experience. Societal behaviors and individual beliefs are shaped and influenced by political zealotry, as seen in the film, particularly those of party officials. Fugui's changing perception of communism, the children's indoctrination, and the zealousness of Mr. New all play a part in showcasing the theme in a poignant fashion. The zealousness of Mr. New. The political climate of the 1950s, 1960s in China was marked by the fervent dedication of many individuals to communist ideals, a trait shared by Mr. New's character. The party's ideological commitment is reflected by his actions. The public execution of a landowner, as orchestrated by Mr. New, shows the audience his zealotry, and it is an event that underscores the extreme measures taken to enforce party doctrines. The Communist Party demonstrates its absolute authority and willingness to eliminate any threats to its power through that execution, which does not merely serve as a punishment for a perceived enemy of the state. Political indoctrination permeates their society, and this is highlighted through the execution scene, in which children cheer, thereby indicating its impact on even the youngest and most impressionable members. The psychological impact of such political zealotry is discussed by Herber, in which it is noted that the fervent pursuit of ideological purity and the concentration of political power often lead to widespread societal trauma. This 20th century Chinese trauma cannot be detached from Mao as a person. He was its initiator, and as a charismatic leader, stood above the people and the party, and in the consciousness of the majority of the people was perceived as a great, compelling leader. Mr. New's actions, which were driven by his unwavering belief in the party's mission, reflect to the audience this broader pattern of political fanaticism and its damaging effects on both individuals and communities. Children's indoctrination and influence. Children's perceptions and behaviors are shaped from a young age by the communist ideology, and this is explored in the film. One significant scene that showcases that would be the children cheering for the execution of a landowner. It uncovers the truth to the audience and shows them that the party's propaganda has deeply infiltrated the minds of the youth, consequently transforming them into enthusiastic supporters of the regime's harsh policies. As depicted in the film, this indoctrination process mirrors historical accounts of how children were used as instruments of the party. They often participated in public denunciations and other political activities. Influence on Fugui. A powerful metaphor for the changing attitudes towards communism is represented by Fugui's character arc in To Live. Initially, Fugui is depicted as a strong believer in the party's ideals. He embraced the promises of a better future through both ideological purity and collective effort. His belief in communism was initially unwavering, even though his own personal hardships and witnessing the oppressive policies implemented by party officials. Fugui's faith in the communist cause began to waver as the film progresses. Fugui's evolving perception of communism can be seen in his Ox monologue, which serves as a pivotal moment in his transformation. Initially, the monologue reflected his unwavering faith in the party's mission. It was meant to symbolize the collective strength and resilience of the people under communist rule. Fugui's monologue changes as he experiences the harsh realities of the political climate. His growing disillusionment with the regime starts being reflected in his monologue. The broader societal transition from initial enthusiasm to skepticism is mirrored in this shift. The idealistic promises of communism are challenged by the practical consequences of political policies. The concept of psychological trauma resulting from political upheavals is explored in Herber, The Great Proletarian Cultural Revolution, China's Modern Trauma. This highlights how such experiences can lead to a reassessment of previously held beliefs and ideals, as can be seen in Fugui's case. Political trauma often forces individuals to reevaluate their commitment to previously cherished ideologies. Fugui's personal crisis of faith is indicative of his disillusionment, thus capturing the broader impact of political zeal on individuals' beliefs and societal attitudes. The complex interplay between personal experiences and political ideologies is reflected in his transformation. Thus, it shows the audience how individuals can navigate the challenging terrain of political change. The historical context of the era can be used to explain why there were the changing attitudes towards communism in To Live. The Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution were periods of intense political and social upheaval. They were characterized by ideological fervor, widespread indoctrination, and harsh enforcement of party policies. The lives of ordinary people were profoundly impacted by these events, thereby shaping their views of the communist regime and its promises. In To Live, Zhang Yimou masterfully intertwines the personal with the political, providing a poignant and multifaceted exploration of mid-20th century China. Through the lens of the Shu family's experiences, the film offers a critical yet empathetic portrayal of the Great Leap Forward and the Cultural Revolution, highlighting both the resilience of ordinary people and the profound impact of political ideology on their lives. Zhang's work, while part of a large narrative of modern China, stands out for its ability to resonate deeply with the lives of ordinary people, offering a grounded and emotionally rich depiction of a complex and often painful chapter in Chinese history. Thank you. The following slide is for references. Please take a look. This is what we refer to when coming up with our transcript. Thank you.